France, the 27th of November 2005. For the first time ever, part of a human face is successfully transplanted onto another. The groundbreaking surgery makes headlines around the world.
If in future we do another face transplant, its result will have to be up to the standard we have already achieved, and that is very, very high.
But a military hospital in China is conducting its own experiments.
I think ideal techniques of face transplantation. If we can transplant the face, we will have a much better result.
Surgeon Guo Shuzong wants to take face transplantation to the next level.
I want to get respect from my colleagues, and I want to develop new surgical techniques to help my patients.
With bear attack victim Li Guoxing, he'll make history. But the stakes are high.
这是最后一次机会，如果是你要知道再发生一次，这个脸就没有了呀。
Failure would be a personal tragedy.
I'm really worried about the future of this patient.
And could shatter the dreams of disfigured people throughout the world. This is Xijing Military Hospital in Xi'an, China's 6th largest city. Although run by the People's Liberation Army, it's open to the public, and most of its work is civilian. Today, it's the outpatient clinic of Professor Guo Shuzong.
We're busy. Keep me crazy.
Guo is one of China's most celebrated plastic surgeons.
We Chinese pay a lot of attention to the face. If you have the problem on the face, you go outside. A lot of people will stare at you, look at you. You feel very uncomfortable.
Professor Guo's ward is full of patients with severe facial disfigurements. He treats them as best he can, using skin grafts.
Some patients are so badly disfigured they don't look like human beings anymore. Some people in China call them ghosts.
He has a disease called granuloma. If we will not remove that, he will maybe died. Hopefully, I can save his life. 希望这回好嘞，能好嘞，能弄好，我觉得行。你看现在没啊？谢谢我。你现在要慢慢练着说话了，你。那么他们在社会上做到很大的。
These patients are discriminated against by society. I deal with them every day and understand their suffering. They're in a great deal of pain. They don't expect to be beautiful after surgery. They just want a normal life again.
正常的生活。你觉得你坐在这个没脸走到大街上行不行？不敢见人。This patient fall on the stone and burned half of the face. So when she first come to see us, that's just exposed of the bone of the half of the face. So it's very difficult to repair. I think ideal techniques of face transplantation. If we can transplant the face on that, we will have a much better result. 那就说心里还想做，还想换个有一个。
当然，看人家的个人觉得就难过，个人看了太难看。
These kind of patients do really need this kind of surgery, because I believe these techniques is the best one now in the world, but still the result is far from perfect. So maybe face transplantation can solve the problem for this kind of patients. That's the only way, I think.
But Professor Guo has already lined up his choice of candidate for the world's first full-face transplant. 36-year-old engineer He Jia Wei.
我只是做一些化疗，所以一个就是我自己对这生活的需要。
这个要做肯定是全脸移植，全脸。
This will be a full face transplant, which has never been done before.
3例都是法国人的2例和我们都是做的是部分的移植。不过这个是也是不是？你现在手上几年了？
快6年，
快6年。也不容易，是吧？做了我上次问你是20几次手术是吧？
反正也20多次，我具体多少？
上次谁给你统计说24次手术？如果是一个
We're going to take his old face off and put a new one on.
把旧的脸取掉了，把新的脸补上去，反正得想办法帮帮你啊，是这意思啊？就现在能不能做？我一定把这个技术给你弄完善了，我最后给你何家伟弄一张漂亮英俊的脸。
着急的，希望是这下对这啥的，让那都出现，过去的我也不错噻。啊。最后还来我说能不能获得新生，能不能出去做事？
没问题，没问题，没问题。With the traditional technique, we cannot help him. 这样了哈啊。Most doctors said that that's it. I cannot do more to improve the appearance of your face. He knows some risk over here. He knows still this kind of surgery is on the very early stage of research, and he know maybe success, maybe not.
He was severely burned in an act of heroism. But instead of being celebrated, he's shunned by society.
People give me strange looks wherever I go. But they don't know me. They don't understand me.
As a result, he rarely ventures onto the streets.
What gives them the right to treat me like this? I'm still a human being. The only difference is that I got burned and they didn't.
He's hopes are pinned on Professor Guo's experimental research. But its success and his future hang on another patient. On a November night in Amiens, France, surgical history is made. For many years, the dream of a handful of surgeons has been blocked by ethics committees. But due to the nature of her injuries, dog attack victim Isabelle Dinoire is cleared to receive the world's first partial face transplant. Professor Guo Shuzong of China pays close attention.
That operation in France was very important. It was a huge encouragement for me. Currently, the research environment in China is not as free as in Western countries. If a new technique goes well, everyone will say you are good, but if it goes wrong, you will be severely criticized.
As in the West, Guo has performed animal experiments to practice surgical techniques. Chinese media celebrate his rabbit face transplant. Now he has ambitions to take the procedure to the next stage.
Our research was at the stage where we had succeeded with animal experiments and were ready to do the operation on a patient.
Just 5 months after the French transplant, Professor Guo sees his opportunity. He has sent photographs of a severely disfigured patient.
An animal conservation charity found him and sent photos to me. I agreed to see him in a small town near his village.
The patient lives in a remote part of Yunnan province, where conservationists have been working to protect the black bear. To the Lisu tribe of Xijing village, the bears are a dangerous menace. Following a spate of attacks on livestock, 30-year-old Li Guoxing has been maimed by a bear whilst tending his flock.
4 sheep went missing, and I went to find them. I saw a big footprint. Suddenly something burst out of the forest, and I fainted. I don't know what happened after that.
His injury was very severe, but I saw the possibility of treating him, so we decided to perform a face transplant on him.
Leaving his wife and children behind, Li has to travel over 1,500 miles to begin his treatment. It'll take him 4 days to reach the hospital in Xi'an.
I had never left my village. I had no idea what was in the big city.
Li doesn't speak Mandarin Chinese. His nephew, Xiao, accompanies him to interpret.
The injury changed him. He didn't dance or sing anymore. He became very lonely.
Also traveling is Duan Hui, from the charity that found him.
因为熊它那个爪子特别锋利，像钢一样，它要不伤人，一伤人都是那种很严重的，特别是面部的伤害，变脸。不知道你们有没有听说过？电视上也有报道。可以来。
People kept staring. It really upset me.
Unable to communicate directly with Professor Guo, Li is confused about what the operation will entail.
At the time, he didn't know if the transplant was from another person or part of him. But he was so excited that he couldn't sleep. He really wanted the operation. He was going to gamble regardless of the risk.
I was amazed by everything in the big city. I had never seen anything like it before.
Li is taken to the hospital and immediately presented to Professor Guo's colleagues. The injuries are more severe than the French case.
对，全部肯定断点，这样的话，实际上我感觉这是一块上床的组织，病情很重啊。我说他这个伤得很重，挺难弄，咱们争取把它再修成英俊小伙，好吧？真的，你看看，
确实是比我想的还严重一些。
对吧？你照片显示的和实际不一样，这个它难度很大。我跟你说，你说这个是。
As Li begins his stay at Xijing Hospital, the first task for the medical team is to thoroughly assess his wounds.
这些都是血病的机器，整个全身的。那个诊断我给写成，面部熊抓伤以后的毁损伤，左大腿前外侧，然后是右胸前外侧还有一些抓伤，但是疤痕都已经长好了。
The injury is at least 2 years old, and it's been exposed to the elements. It has to be thoroughly cleaned and prepared.
他们看是不是害怕？别害怕，对吧？
你跟他说，他听这个月。
如果有什么想法，有什么担心，有什么害怕呀，什么这些，应该跟我讲。
想不想家？现在？
没离开过家什么的，想孩子啊什么的，照片过来没有？
他小伙计，他昨天晚上跟我说的话是，意思是，就是写不着。
那么为了把这个事情
We had a translator to help explain to him about the operation, including its risks.
They also take time to make him understand the full implications of transplantation.
We waited before performing the operation. There were a few issues. The donor face would be from a dead person. Some people in China believe in ghosts. If he was afraid of ghosts, then it would be a big problem. So before the operation, I told him it was like using somebody else's old clothes to fix your own clothes.
Professor Guo's plan is more complex than the French case. Because Li's nose is missing, the bone of the donor nose will also have to be transplanted. This is wholly new territory. The plan will have to be approved by hospital authorities.
The hospital organized many professionals and professors. We had discussions about what to do if it went wrong. Then the members of the committee held a secret ballot to decide if we should do the operation. The leader of the hospital asked me how confident I was. I said 90%. He then agreed to do the operation.
Everything is now ready, apart from one thing, a donor face. This has to be of the same blood group, similar in age and complexion. Now all they can do is wait for the right type of person to die. China has a controversial history of organ harvesting.
Westerners have criticized the Chinese over this issue. Some Chinese doctors took organs from human corpses, sometimes even from executed prisoners. This did happen in China. But the government has strict rules on this issue now, because you criticized us repeatedly.
Li's been waiting over a month for a donor face. When Professor Guo gets the call he's been hoping for. A 25-year-old man has died in a car accident. The operation must begin immediately.
His nose and top lip were all gone, so I wasn't changing the face, I was repairing the face.
It's midday. Two surgical teams work simultaneously. Professor Guo's team prepares Li to receive the donor face. In parallel, the donor's face is being removed. Some 5 hours in, the donor tissue, flesh and bone, is ready. The nose is an added complication.
结果呢，这个棍体的脸的骨头比兽体要小，所以我们做手术的时候没办法，只好把骨头切开了，不然的话，把外面的骨头固定上了，鼻子就偏了。
The donor face is positioned, but the operation is only halfway through. Each tiny blood vessel has to be connected by hand.
To join blood vessels, you have to sew under a microscope. Blood vessels are very thin. They can be 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters, or 3 millimeters thick. If the stitches aren't smooth, they cause clots that block the blood vessels. So the stitches must be very smooth to ensure the blood flows smoothly. I expected to complete the operation in 7 or 8 hours, but it took much longer.
In fact, it's taken 18 hours. The team have worked through the night. By 6 a.m., the historic operation is over. Following the operation, Li is kept in isolation. The main task now is to stop his body rejecting the transplanted face.
Rejection is natural. We don't know the reason. The body doesn't reject anything of its own, but when it detects something that doesn't belong, the immune system attacks it. If he didn't take the drugs, his new face would get rejected.
But the body's rejection is not the biggest problem that Professor Guo will have to overcome.
That whole little corner here is all Hitler's blood.
He's one of history's most notorious figures, and now comes a groundbreaking discovery.
We've got Adolf Hitler's DNA.
When these findings emerged, I was flabbergasted.
This is going to be quite big.
Hitler's DNA, Blueprint of a Dictator, on Channel 4. Stream now.
Less than 2 weeks after his face transplant, Li Guoxing is making a good recovery. Today, he's to see his new face for the first time.
When I looked in the mirror, I was very happy. It was like a dream. I can't thank Professor Guo enough. He is a great surgeon. I am honored to have this new face. I am proud.
Over 14 months in hospital, Li has further procedures to improve his appearance. He learns some Chinese and builds a good relationship with hospital staff. But eventually, the tribesman tires of city life.
The hospital treated me well, but I couldn't get used to living there. I missed my family, friends in the village, and every tree in the forest.
Against medical advice, he demands to return to his family in their remote mountain home. A face transplant demands lifelong care. Li will have to continue taking drugs, and these have serious side effects.
The drug has 3 side effects. The first is infection. Because it is designed to weaken the immune system, it is easier to get an infection. The second causes problems with metabolism, such as high blood sugar and diabetes. Mr. Li will need insulin to control it. Third, the drug increases the chance of getting a cancerous tumor.
As the terrain becomes increasingly difficult, it reinforces how far from medical care Li will be. It's an 8-hour hike to the village.
你让我稍微歇歇，咱们走慢点行不行？休息呀，休息呀！我的天哪！
Li is reintroduced to village elders, who can scarcely believe the transformation.
伯伯，你摸摸是真的还是假的？你摸一下，你摸一下，你可以摸一下他的脸，你摸一下这是真的假的？好了好了好了，我在这楼下，你摸这个是真的。我买这。 好了，不是塑料的吧？拿回家去了，不是塑料的吧？哎，干嘛这么忙？他说的是好，买不了，好了，
线现在嘛，它差一点了，我都是，繁轻一点嘛，对，线再后差一点。现在好看一点。
From now on, Li's delicate health is in his own hands. He's a 4-day journey from medical help at the hospital in Xi'an. But he's achieved his dream of being reunited with his family. And he does so as a new man. In France, 2.5 years have passed since Isabelle Dinoire received the world's first partial face transplant. Today, she's attending a twice-monthly checkup. She lives an hour away from the hospital.
En étant le plus détendu possible sur la lèvre.
My life is virtually back to normal.
C'est pas mal ça. Bien.
The most difficult thing was to go out in the street. People recognized me. That wasn't easy. But now it's calmed down a lot.
Tu vas baisser la lèvre supérieure. Et tu relâches.
Isabelle is undergoing physiotherapy to improve the movement and feeling of her transplanted face.
À nouveau.
The last area that I couldn't feel was the lips. Now I feel the face completely, all over.
Une chambre des dames.
For surgeon Bernard Devauchel, choosing a patient who would comply with the aftercare regime was crucial.
We ensured that the transplant would be tolerated, both immunologically and psychologically, by choosing the right type of patient.
Isabelle's blood is monitored to check her immunological response. But just as important is psychological support.
It's a reconstruction of the patient's morale, even before the physical reconstruction. That was how she proved her capacity to cope psychologically, which indicated to us that she was a good patient who would accept the constraints of the treatment.
The patient has to fully understand that they've undertaken a lifetime commitment.
Ideally, she would be completely independent, but she's had a treatment which, under current scientific conditions, is for life. We have to give her a long-term follow-up.
In China, burn victim He Jia Wei is waiting for what could be the world's first full-face transplant. He understands the commitment expected of him and has moved close to Professor Guo's hospital as a result.
I am very grateful for the help and support I have been given. That's why I'm determined to pay it back. This is my second chance at life. Psychologically, I am strong. I know medical science will make life much better for me.
He was burned at the petrochemicals plant he worked at. Without his heroism, hundreds of his colleagues would have perished.
There was a leak which caused a fire. I knew the dangers as I studied in that field. If I hadn't done anything, the consequences would have been unimaginable. So I stepped out and the oil spattered my face. I closed the gas valve as I fell unconscious. For a very long time, they didn't give me a mirror. But I knew how bad my face was. I hope that after my face transplant, I will be like everyone else.
The biggest obstacle to He's face transplant is a lack of donors. Something Professor Guo is trying to address.
We now go to the emergency room to talk with the chief of emergency. I asked him to help me find a donor, possibly if someone died from a traffic accident. You know, it's really difficult to find a donor, so if we try to talk to people, if we know we cannot serve the life, then we will die. But it's really difficult to, you know, most of people say no. 完全死了就不行，但是脑死亡我们是最好的，就是说我可以有个时间准备。如果说因为我要提前给那个病人要做准备啊，运药什么的，最好是脑死亡还没有死，如果家属有这种意愿，我们可以。对，对，这我们有，我给你到时候下次你送个协议过来，你给我天天抄这个协，有类似碰到这样的病人。还有一些我这还有个外伤图片，就是说这个当针从各个插过去，病号一看这个病号肯定就过来的。对，那这样头面部都是很好的。但是面部我要的是一定是面部好的，面部整个年轻一点。对，我现在大概要的相对年轻20-30男的。下次我可以给你个病人的照片放这儿，就是脸的大小差不多，形差不多。
The most important thing is that the face is healthy. I also hope it's young.
爸，过来一下。
My condition has caused my family a great deal of pain.
这个咋写？
意思就是看来。
比如就是说有的。
Sometimes children are scared of my dad.
这个是啥颜色呀？比如我和我爸爸去公园的时候。
Once I went to the park with him, and this kid hid behind his mum and screamed, "Monster!"
的背后说怪兽。
The only way to improve He's appearance is to remove his old face completely. The consequences of his new face being rejected would be catastrophic.
The only thing that worries me is tissue rejection. But Professor Guo has reassured me about it, and it shouldn't be a problem for me.
But tissue rejection is a very real problem.
Oh my goodness.
Professor Guo has received worrying news about his first patient, Li Guoxing. It could destroy his plans for He's transplant.
So have the rejection, you know, it's a redness of skin and some ulcer and swelling. I think this gentleman maybe stopped using drugs. Before the surgery, I told him he must take drugs every day. So we give drugs, you know, totally free, a lot of drugs to him. I don't know why, he just maybe forget it. I'm really worried about the future of these patients. 这是7天前的照片，
Guo has convened a conference to discuss the rejection with his peers. In the meantime, he's dispatched one of his doctors to administer a high dose of drugs to get the rejection under control.
那不太那么容易，不太容易那个。他是坚决不想来。
但他不愿做，不愿回来也好，还是想要做工作。既然你接受了这样现实，你不能说你说不回来就不回来，就扎了狗窝，通过各种途径想办法回来。只要回来以后，我觉得就能干，是吧？在现实里面，我已经有2年多这个成绩拿到以后，我保持下去以后，比多少钱都值得。
你就是说，你就完了不行，就回头和原来的还不好看，这我觉得是最现实的跟他说。法国呢，它之所以好，他是城里人，他离医院近，他被脱离他就环境，所以他这个东西他配合。
苏老师如果处理的不好，一下烂掉以后，全都进去，太可惜了。
The contrast with the French case is all too apparent. It's decided that Professor Guo should travel to Yunnan province in person to persuade Li to return to hospital in Xi'an.
到哪儿了？在哪儿了？我在等你们，我没看。A little bit worried about the results, you know. After more than 2 years hard work, you know. Before he leaves the hospital, his result pretty good. So I don't know what will happen here. Hopefully it's okay. 我的天哪！你怎么都是这样了？来吧，来吧，来吧，来吧。你看，你还行吧？啊，还行啊！我天哪，瘦了很多哎。瘦了吗？你看。来，你坐着，你坐着。
Professor Guo and his colleague, Dr. Xu, are trying to find out what happened. Li's nephew is on hand to translate.
后面我一看来了那天啊，我这有点奇怪，这个吃的这个方对，就脸臭了吧，这个错。所以组织部是马上给他打电话了，
对，我估计还是药停了几天是吧？是不是停了几天药？
那么那开玩笑的够大。
Despite the denials, it's obvious to Professor Guo that Li has stopped taking the immunosuppressant drugs.
都能摸都能知道是吧？痒不痒？
痒啊不痒？
你看他这个现在有个很明确的界限在这，原来那个界限都不清楚了嘛。对。现在你看这界限，说明他要是有细胞侵入，像这个一些细胞攻击的问题，炎症反应在这一圈，所以再要出现一次，我们就没戏了，就会变成原来那样了，又没脸了。咱俩到那个到这房间了，咱俩你现在我跟是商量，好吧？我说的这个意见等一下，我跟他说，OK， 我们商量，你先等一会儿，我们商量看，好吧？好吧，你等着我，是吧？
想买的等我。
急的我就骂他了，我今天我就指着鼻子，我说你这个没良心的，我说郭主任像你爹，我说你真是你的再生父母啊，再生你，我说谁能比你好，对他还对他好的？你现在没有人比他对你还好。
停药的情况你知道？
我反复问，但是没有问出来。
但是实际上你看刚才说他还是把药停掉，
但是我猜肯定是
停一次药，注意是停一次药去做。所以现在这种状况，看来活下来这个逆转可以做得到，对，但是质量。
Although he denied stopping his medication, away from his surgeon, he comes clean.
I stopped taking the drugs and used herbal medicine. In my village, we use herbal medicine when we are ill. My face felt fine, so I couldn't see any problems.
那你孩子现在跟谁住了？走，咱们去喝点茶。
Professor Guo will make one last attempt to persuade Li to return to hospital in Xi'an, his best hope of saving his face.
李国兴，你说怎么办？我们现在必须决定，因为我们时间有限了，我明天早上就得走了。你要是就是愿意去住的话，包括你那个女朋友还有她的孩子一块带过去也可以。我们给你一套房子，有电视，有洗衣机。
不是你要知道李国兴，我可全为你好，你要知道，为你的事，快3年了嘛，从认识他快到3年了嘛，做完手术2年多了，这是最后一次机会，如果是你要知道再发生一次，这个脸就没有了呀。
到时候他偏发炎，脾气不行。又给他别地吃。
You know, I feel frustrated. You know, I persuaded him, you know, to go back to the hospital, and told him it's dangerous to, you know, stay there at home, you know, and he will lose the face. But he's still strong belief. He survived for long, forever. 我也能理解，你知道，因为我是农村人，农村人他就喜欢在农村待着，他不愿意在城里生活啊。
天主任你不带来给，适合不带来好。
但是还想家。让他回家嘛，让他回啊！我们把所有的方案给他都安排好，我们把药给他留下，所有的方案给他安排好，好吧？
With Li refusing to cooperate, the only option is to prescribe him a large supply of the drugs and hope that he takes them.
If one day I lose my face, I won't blame anyone.
一定要把那个啥，对了，好了，我不送你们了，你们走吧。这个他在我们这儿，因为
I spent more time looking after that patient than I did my own family.
科里面的一员了，一定要把那个，一定要自己保重，听到没？有问题给我打电话啊！这些都是。
We didn't just choose him because he was illiterate. I can be totally honest with you about this.
非常 honest 的告诉你。 Then I don't know the real fine result. You know, I'm really worried about that. Hopefully it will become better, but I don't know. So I will call him maybe, you know, last every week, kind of to follow him.
The success of Professor Guo's first face transplant is now out of his hands. For He Jia Wei, the wait for a new face could be a long one.
I take each day as it comes. I'm not in a hurry. I'm willing to wait. Maybe a year, 2 years, or even 3 years. There's no point in worrying about it, because it won't make any difference. All I can do is wait.
In this case, China's march for progress has been slowed by the free will of a single tribesman. It's a sign of how much the country has changed. But for an ambitious surgeon, it also shows how far it still has to go.
We Chinese learn very quickly, but a lot of new ideas not created by us. We should change. We encourage the people to have the new idea, try new things. For this kind of research, of course, you can success, or maybe you will fail. But you need someone first to do that.